Hello, adventurers, and welcome to the Micflayers podcast, coming to you from wherever you want. As a reward for being so awesome, you get to choose. I'm your host, Conor Martin, and joining me as always is my co-host, Mr. Martin Dwyer.
How's it going, Connor?
Thank you very much.
I like the intro.
Thank you. If you guys can't guess from that, we're going to be talking about player rewards or rewarding your players today, and what that means for them and what that means for your campaign and stuff like that. So, before we get into that, Martin, how are you today?
It's been a good one, man. Yeah, I have good feeling. Mostly okay. Yeah, I had a mix of my food order that I'm still getting over, so I'm not hungry, but it's okay. It's okay.
Martin is cursed when it comes to any sort of deliveries or orders or anything like that.
Critical Role, protein, food orders, all gone wrong this week. It's been a long one, but today I'm good. Even though it doesn't maybe sound like it from this intro. No, I am good. It's been fun. 3 more episodes of Legend of Vox Machina put me in a pretty damn good mood for the rest of the weekend.
Do you know what? I watched the first 3 episodes when they came out last week, and I thought, oh man, that was great. And I watched these 3 episodes now, and do you know what the difference is? The first 3 episodes wrap up and exist like a short quest, and then set up the next one. And these 3 are right in the middle of the Briarwood arc, and I'm like, and I just finished them thinking, I need more. Yeah. That's not enough. I need more. Yeah. So I can't wait for next week. I think we're getting 10 episodes overall, right?
12.
Oh, 12. So, nice. Okay. So wait another week, another full 3 after that. That's awesome.
They did the same thing Arcane did, which is really clever, where you have 4 weeks with 3 episodes. So you have lots of content for people to talk about and freak out about together, but you still leave them wanting more, and then you have 4 whole weeks of that. And then week 4 hits, and people go, no, I need more.
And then you go right back to the start.
And then 3 weeks later, you go, season 2 announced.
I actually did, after finishing that last night, myself and Tara finished the first season of The Wheel of Time.
Ooh, excellent. How did you feel about... God damn it. I really need to stop my goddamn internet security pop-ups, because that's twice now it's done that for the last 2 weeks. How did you feel about how it ended?
I thought... okay, let me just say a couple things without giving any spoilers away. I thought the ending of the first season was probably the weakest part. I think overall it's a good season. It's a really good season of TV. But I do feel like I was expecting a bit more of a bang at the end, and it was kind of just... It wasn't like a flop. Definitely not a flop, but it's just... It didn't... if you're looking at a scale on a graph, it didn't go up like I wanted it to. It kind of just maybe got a little more interesting, you know. But it wasn't the level of amazing I wanted it to be. Now, that being said, I'm still really enjoying this. I think the world building is so good.
Got me into the books. Oh my god.
Robert Jordan has... You know what? He's got a great ear for the etymology of words. Like how things change over time and all that, because there's people who have names that sound like modern day names, but they're obviously just changed over hundreds or thousands of years. And there's even a bit where there's a flashback sequence at one point to to the previous
The Age of
prophet
Legends
person.
is what it's called.
Yeah, and it's so it's a flashback to that, and you meet the previous dragon in it. But he doesn't call... What is it? He doesn't call them the Aes Sedai. It's a very slightly different name, but it's obviously the same word. It's just changed over 3,000 years. And there was something like that, and I'm like, you know what? That kind of world building really gets me. I thought that was really good.
I think I know which one you're freaking out about, and it's where the origin of the name of the town they're from, Two Rivers, comes from. It's a thing Moiraine says in the 3rd episode, she brings them all. I think start of the 3rd, maybe 2nd episode, or the end of 2nd, where she has the 4 of them from Emond's Field, and they're all and her and Lan are taking them away to White Tower, and she gives them a speech about the place they're from, how it used to be called Manetheren, which means home of the River Mountain home. I think I really should know this, but I've been seriously slacking on my Wheel of Time reading recently. But basically, the whole thing was that this place, Two Rivers, is hemmed in by 2 rivers, and the really large and kind of pronounced bends of the river, I think the river Menethenendrel, I think is the name of it. I'm probably horribly mispronouncing that. If you're a fan of the Wheel of Time, I apologize. But basically so they have the 2 rivers, and then it was in the old language it means the river, the mountain home, the river's mountain home, I think it was. And then as that went down through time, that went down and down and down through the ages, and then became Two Rivers, as opposed to the place of the Two Rivers mountain home.
Yeah, but it's also how, because the setting is hundreds of thousands of years, whatever, thousands of years in the future from our real world, and Manetheren is supposedly meant to be like Manhattan, isn't it? It's like,
No, that was the thing I said to you when I started reading The Wheel of Time. Was that
oh,
like
that's okay.
I was like, because we were talking about how it's like the Age of Legends was everything was like super sci-fi and like all super advanced, and
Yeah.
I was saying I swear to God, there's this place called Manetheren, and if I get like 9 books in and they're like, and this used to be called Manhattan, I'm going to throw the book across the room.
Fair. I took that as fact in my mind, but it's a different thing. It was something else, but it was something they talk about a lot in the show, and in the flashback they kind of it was spelled differently in the subtitles, and they pronounce it kind of differently. But I'm like, I see how that 3,000 years later is like Aes Sedai or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So I thought it was really good. I think most of the actors in the show, most of them, the main 5, we'll say, are okay. They're fine. I'm not blown away. And there's a couple of like romances that I don't entirely buy. But again, that could just be the show, and
Yeah.
the actual book might be better. I think Rosamund Pike is absolutely nailing it. She's I cannot. She's so good. I kind of thought that like
Her and the guy
she would be
play
like
Lan, while not exactly how either character is portrayed in the book, kind of perfectly encapsulate the essence of those characters.
I really like their relationship. And like
Oh, that shot in the first episode where they're fighting the Trollocs, and it's like the overhead crane shot down,
Yeah.
and Moiraine is casting, and Lan is just Captain American around the place with the sword. I love it.
no, it's so good.
Like
I'm almost certainly
a warder is what a 5e fighter should be at 20th level.
pretty much, yeah. So I really like the two. I think the two of them are fantastic, and they're probably the relationship I buy the most in the show. And it's not even a romantic one. It's just it's beyond that. It's different. It's like it transcends romance and sexuality and stuff. It's a bond of kinship and companionship, and weirdly it's more beautiful to me than most of the romance art in this show. Is that bond? Is that they're just such good friends and companions that they mean the world to each other, and I think there's something really really wholesome about that, and I really enjoy it. But yeah, good show. I will definitely good show. I will definitely watch the second season. I think they've already started, because I think they started filming before the first season even aired.
Yes.
Right?
So, and the thing to keep in mind as well is the last 2 episodes are pretty heavily affected by COVID, and that's why there was like so in. So I'm just gonna spoil the end of the first book here in a detail that relates to the end of the first season. Just like do you know what? I'll hold my hand up, and when I'm done, when I hold my hand up, mute me, and when I'll bring my hand down, unmute me. Okay? So
for our audio listeners, I don't know what you're gonna do here.
I'm gonna say Wheel of Time spoil. Like I'll be quick. I'll be like 30 seconds. Wheel of Time spoilers starting right now. Okay, so at the end of the first season, when they are all lined up at Faldara and the battle is happening, that's a huge battle, and they don't abandon. Like it's not solved by those 3 people doing that thing. It's a massive battle with all of them, and the dragon goes wild with power and destroys all the Trollocs. Wheel of Time spoilers done.
Okay, that's interesting. That maybe explains why I thought the end of the show lacked a little bit. If that's how the first book ends and the show differs a little bit,
And
that would have been way more.
Non-spoiler, the end of the first book is kind of a mess as well.
Okay, fair enough.
It's entirely different to what it is in the show.
The good news is you have
and it's
13 more
weird.
to get it right.
Oh god, I have 9 more books to read. Okay. Anyway,
Long books at that, not even like 200 or 300 page novels, like 400 or 500 pages each.
the one I'm on currently is 7, and after this one they kick it up into 1,000 each.
I don't think I've ever read a book more than like 600 pages.
I read the Divine Comedy, so Inferno, Purgatorio, and Paradiso all together in one when I was in second year of secondary school. And my teacher was like, "Oh, what books did you like?" They was like, "Oh, everyone pick like a classic book to read," and I went to the classics and saw the Divine Comedy, which had characters and demons from some of my favorite video games. Grabbed it, went, I'll read this. Read it and was like, that was really, really difficult. And then brought it into school, and my teacher was like, did anyone think they picked a book that's a bit complicated for them? And I went like that and raised my hand. And she was like, okay, Martin, what book did you get? I was like, it's a really old book, miss. I got it because like a video game I play has characters that are named after characters from it, and it's about like hell and stuff. I thought it'd be cool. And she was like, okay, getting progressively more worried looking. And I picked up the book and showed her the cover, and it's like Dante Alighieri, The Divine Comedy. And she like picked the book up and looked at it and looked at me and went, I didn't read this till my second year of college. And then just put it back down on my desk. Oh, man.
Yeah. I do you know what, I have to think about it now, because the longest books definitely the longest books I've ever read, I don't read a lot, the longest books I've read were whatever the longest of the first 4 Harry Potters is, probably Goblet of Fire. Yeah. I didn't finish reading Order of the Phoenix. I listened to the audiobook as I did the rest. I have no shame. I don't care. I'll listen to audiobooks all day, son.
Also, I'm not being like, look at me, big brain reading Divine Comedy when I was 14. I understood maybe 30% of it.
Yeah. Oh, you look, I understood all those words, just not in that sequence.
No, I did not understand all those words.
Is it done in like kind of like Old English, kind of almost?
It's not like old English, but it's like medieval poetry basically. The whole thing is written in poetic verse.
There's a lot of stuff I've seen a couple different versions of Pride and Prejudice, whether it be the movie or the show and stuff like that, because Tara's a big fan and she rewatches them regularly. So only after multiple watches do I really have a grasp on what people are saying, but I don't understand those period piece like language. I get bits and I do understand certain things, but there's certain phrases, like language in those things is like poetry. They phrase things in certain roundabout ways that and also like not even like they wouldn't say like I am happy. They would say something like I am lacking in any sort of sadness. Like, it's in a roundabout way they're saying the same thing, but they kind of do it, and I'm like, you have to think about it.
Are you saying that old people speaking like that in Old English speak like lizard folk?
A little bit. There's a great sadness upon me. Lizard folk and Irish people, we all speak the same way.
Oh god, yeah. Should we talk about
Yes, I'll jump into that. Was one of my favorite revelations of maybe the past few months, is that you realize that lizard folk speak exactly like if you speak the Irish language. Because like when you say to Bronarm, I am sad, it doesn't mean I am sad, it means there is a sadness upon me. Which is like just it's
I really like that as well though, because like it makes very really 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 like evocative in Irish when you directly translate it. So like you could say like Tá Bronarm means I'm sad, or you could say Tá Bronarm Downarm, which means the effective use is I'm really sad, but the direct translation is the sadness of the world is upon me.
Yeah,
which is just a whole other like level. Like
I wish
that's like Spider-Man under all of the stuff going, come on Spider-Man.
Yeah. I wish I had more of an appreciation for how amazing our language is when I was in school. I'm bad at language. I'm bad at school. I don't do school.
I was decent at it, and I really wish I had actually just like done a course or something after school in college or something like that. Like not in Irish, but like yeah.
I will throw my hands up right now, and I will admit it, because when I was in school, the language people or the excuse people always make in school is, why bother learning Irish? No one uses the language. Like maybe 100,000 people in the country use it, no one else. It's not a useful language. Blah blah blah. And then everyone's like, no, it's important because it's your culture and blah blah blah. And you'll regret it if you don't learn it now, because you'll regret it as an adult. And I thought, no way, man, I'm never going to regret learning this drivel. Like, and now here I am at the age of 29, and I'm like, I kind of wish I could speak a bit more Irish.
Same.
I was wrong. Hands up, I was wrong.
I have 2 or 3 friends who are full on fluent, and every time I see them talking to people in Irish, I'm like, man.
My sister teaches young kids, so she has enough Irish for them, and she's okay at Irish. But there is one, I think it's a girl in her class whose mother is from a Gaeltacht, and she comes in and she speaks conversational Irish, and it's not as formal as the stuff you'd use in the classroom. And like she'll talk to my sister, and she'll like Robin will just kind of nod along like and she gets about half of what your one is saying to her, and she just kind of smiles and goes with it. And occasionally she'll have to like Sorry, could you repeat that? I missed that there. Kind of like because it's conversational stuff.
Yeah.
Meg speaks pretty good Irish actually. Her friend Meg,
Yeah.
because again she's a teacher, so she would. I remember all the teachers when I was okay. We're moving on to the topic in a second. I was going to say I remember when I was in primary school, all the teachers would come in, and if they wanted to talk to each other, they'd talk in Irish, and they do like they had a secret code, and they'd be chatting away at full volume, and we're all looking at them like they'd look at us when they're talking, and you're obviously saying something about us, but I don't understand enough Irish to understand what you're saying. That should have been motivation enough for us to want to learn, just so we had a secret language.
That was definitely the first time I've ever experienced the conversation happening directly over my head, observing it and still not knowing what's going on.
Yeah.
Because I'm getting ta and Shay
In shape.
and August. So for non-Irish speakers, yes, he and.
I love the idea of anyone who's not from Ireland listening to this the last like 5 or 6 minutes of the podcast and be like, what the hell are these people talking about?
Yeah, I know.
Basically, we are Irish. There's a language called Irish. We learn it. We're meant to learn it in school. Most people are not very good at it, which is a shame because it's a core part of our culture. But yeah, and we make a lot of jokes about it. And people, if you most Irish people will throw in the 1 or 2 Irish words they have into an English sentence just to sound a little bit cultured.
Someday I'm going to do one of my episodes in Irish, like an intro in Irish. I swear to God I will. Just so like the idea of someone, like, oh cool, new Micflayers. Click. What gibberish is this? Like,
Did Martin learn Elvish for this?
is Martin possessed?
Okay,
Yeah.
Martin,
On brand. Let's go.
let's talk about rewarding players.
Yes.
Specifically when rewarding players and how that affects their behavior towards the game. So Matt, what kind of stuff would you use if you're rewarding players in your campaign? They complete a mission or the dungeon or they kill this bad guy. What kind of stuff do you give them?
Normally, like obviously, like there's the obvious stuff like gold, magic items, just regular cool items that are useful, like potions, interesting lore, maybe like a piece of info on like someone's backstory found in an unexpected place. I actually like to use items to foreshadow a lot.
That's I actually I don't that's actually of the things you mentioned here in the list, I don't have information. That's actually a really good one I didn't consider. But information can be very good as well because what I want to talk about today mostly, I should put on the table. This is kind of almost in response to a video Matt Colville had up on his channel 2 or 3 weeks ago about I believe it's called.
I actually have it open still because I have I have a few comments I found. That
it's called Toward Better. Damn you, ad, go away.
Toward Better Rewards.
Towards Better Rewards.
Which, well done, very nice. That's a beautiful sentence.
But yeah, and I think I listened to it. I thought it was a really good, interesting conversation about rewarding players. And I think we tend to dish out rewards like they're fairly inconsequential, but they're not. They have a really solid bearing in the game, and Matt kind of brought that to light in the video. So I wanted us to talk about it a little bit. I think information is something that has a massive bearing. If you give the information, particularly because D&D is story based, if you finish an arc and then find out that this this bad guy you just killed was actually working for this this lord in town, then you're like, oh my god, that lord is corrupt. That's a great way to reward your players because now you've given them more information to forward the plot. And they can of course act on that. You're giving them a lot of information, something like, I didn't put down on my list, but I think it is a really core, really important one.
I think it's because I remember one of my my most distinct memories of like playing D&D early on. I don't remember a whole bunch of our early sessions, but I do remember the stuff where Lug got bitten by a werewolf and we were trying to figure out, but we didn't know it was werewolves. For some reason, Lug got real strong and real fast out of nowhere at one time. And we were like, have I accidentally taken magical steroids? What's going on here? And then at one point, weird stuff started happening to me. And I distinctly remember both me and you were like thinking, werewolves! And like, that has like stuck with me as a DM for ages in that like, and as well just in like really good books, like a realization is a reward in itself. Or like when you can connect things together and like figure out how that happened and why that happened, that's a reward in itself. At least in my book.
Yeah, Get it? Because it's a yeah. No, absolutely, yeah, and it's one I wouldn't have thought of. But I mean, the reward in that, and like something Matt brings up in his video is when you reward someone with something, what does that then encourage them to do? Because he has a quote that he opens his video with. I think it's really really good. And it's very much from a game design perspective, which he's been in the industry of for a very long time. The behavior a game rewards is the behavior a game encourages. So when you so if someone finds out information about the plot or forwards the plot or learns something new about the bad guy or something like that, or even the history of something, finding out that information and being rewarded with that information encourages you to then get more information,
Yeah.
like that is the reward kind of follows through and encourages you to follow information seeking as a result.
Yeah, absolutely. Like with my Blood Hunter, when I was setting up the bad guy for one of the first arcs I did with him, part of his backstory was that he had broken away from their like hunter organization and had committed some great sin against the order. And like, so his name was like stricken from the records, and he'd stolen something precious. I think that's how he said it, stolen something precious. So when they killed him, instead of just like they killed him, and then they were like searched the room that they killed him in, found a bunch of stuff and freed people, and then they went, oh, there's one more floor though, let's go up and look, and they found his library, and they decided to search through all of his library because they have had good success with finding stuff in libraries. And what they found in that library was a stolen volume of Blood Hunter techniques, which is the esoteric rites that they get at level 15. And if they hadn't done that, or if they hadn't rolled high enough to find it, I would have made that a mini quest for my Blood Hunter. Go find the book of esoteric rites that was stolen hundreds of years ago by this guy that you killed.
That's really good.
Because then, I think I would feel kind of bad doing that, because that's essentially locking off a feature that they should just have. But I think it would also make a cool idea, like, oh, like none of us can use like necrotic damage on our blood rights because this tome of knowledge was stolen hundreds of years ago and we've no one else who knows it.
Yeah, no, it's fair. I think it does kind of work, and I think I the one thing I actually don't have down here similar to that is giving people additional abilities as rewards. Rewards don't always have to be magic items. They can be you can give them. Sorry,
you did that with me. I have battle master stuff.
You have some battle master stuff, even though you're not a battle master, because I wanted for you to be. I wanted to give you something, and you had this spirit of this ancient elf inside you that you can communicate with, and he taught you some elven techniques for fighting, and as a result, I gave you a few dice, a few superiority dice,
3 dice, and 2 moves,
and that you could pick yourself, like what moves do you want to learn, and honestly, it's worked out really, really well. You have a couple of really cool abilities you can use.
I really love bait and switch, and Liam O'Brien used it recently in Critical Role, and I was like, yes.
Yeah, it's one that was one of the newer ones, wasn't it? It came later on with like Tasha's or whatever.
Yes, it did. It came in. It was in the same. I think it was in the same homebrew as Sidekicks, maybe, or it came out around the same time, because I remember looking into that. Or maybe optional class features. That was what it was in.
That's the optional class features. But it's great. So I mean, like, you can reward players that way as well. And I think something that when you're rewarding players, like I said, it feeds into the behavior you are rewarding. When I give you something like that, if I say here's 2 new combat moves and you can do them 3 times with these superiority dice, what I'm doing, whether either of us is really conscious of it at the time, is I'm encouraging you to go and fight things. Because if I what's that other Mac Oval thing he says? When you're holding a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Yeah.
So if I give you things to fight with, naturally you're going to want to fight. If I go, here's a +3 sword, you're like, let's go mess something up with this +3 sword, because that's a natural response.
Yeah.
You want to use the thing you just got, and I think that's a really. You can really steer the direction of your game, or encourage or discourage certain behaviors based on the kind of things you give your players, and on a really kind of subconscious level. Again, I've never, because again, I only watched this video a couple of weeks ago. I don't think that I've ever done this, definitely not actively, that I've ever gone, I really want the guys to be more aggressive, so here's some new weapons. I don't think I've ever done that, but I've given you weapons because I feel like weapons will be good or make sense for this horde or something like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I could totally see myself doing it now, because I want you guys to have.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think when it comes to magic items, I have a couple of things I was thinking about earlier on, right? when it comes to magic items, they're pretty broad in how they can steer your game. Again, one of the more with gold and magic items, those are like the two core, or two of the three core rewards you can grant players. Gold is very versatile. You can use it for a lot of different things, whether it's just buying up more magic, which is usually just buying up more magic items. But if you're rewarded magic items as well, depending on what those magic items are, you are subconsciously or not, encouraging your players to behave a certain way. So a couple of examples I have here. If I give party +2 armor, +2 weapons, I'm encouraging the players to want to get into fights. I have a +2 battle axe. Yeah, I'm gonna want to cut stuff up with that naturally. So if we run to some bandits, whereas we could probably flee, I'm probably more likely to be like, nah, I just got a +2 axe. Let's go. I'm ready right now. Or if I got +2 armor, I might think to myself, I'm really tanky now. I'm absolutely going to take these guys on. I don't care. So you kind of encourage that behavior. If I was to give you guys as a party either like a magic carpet, a clockwork carriage, or each of you a hippogriff mount, I'm encouraging you to travel in the world because I'm granting you the ability to travel to other places really, really easily over land. Why wouldn't you guys use that and then I'm encouraging you guys to explore and to maybe take jobs further from town, or maybe travel to the next town and start taking jobs as adventurers there. Or if I give you guys boots of elvenkind and a cloak of invisibility, I'm encouraging stealthy behavior. If you have these stealthy objects, you would probably lean towards using them for stealthy resolutions to problems, and it's something I never considered until I watched this Scoville video, but I do think it's really, really interesting, the kind of subconscious ways that we can kind of influence the game. And again, I never did it consciously before, but I mean, there's plenty of times I've definitely given you guys stuff, and I'm thinking back on all the magic items I gave you over the years, and thinking, did they ever act a certain way, and I didn't want them to act that way, but it's as a direct result of me giving them this magic item, Like, have you guys ever gone in, kicking in the front door, swinging weapons and shooting off spells and stuff like that? And I'm thinking, oh, I kind of thought they'd sneak in the back door and get the drop on these guys. But the reason you did it is because I just gave you a +5 shield or something stupid like that.
The only thing I can really think of is when you gave me the cursed armor that made my barehanded attacks hit as hard as longswords, and I just punched that dude in the face to death because I was like, oh, my fists hit as hard as longswords. I'm going to punch this guy in the face.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, that would have been the same damage as your spear.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
If it was two-handed or one-handed, but but we'll say if it's a D8 and it's a D8 for your hand or that, you might just use the armor because you just got it, because you want to use the thing you just got. It's a very natural response if someone hands you something to immediately want to do something with this thing. Again, if I hand you a hammer, what can I hammer? Is there a nail around here? You're gonna go looking for excuses to use that thing.
Yeah.
So I think magic items can be very varied in how they direct you and stuff like that. But I think it's a really cool concept to kind of do stuff in your game. If your party, I don't know. Yeah, if you want them to be able to do more, or if you want them to be more aggressive, maybe you think the party's too slow when approaching encounters. They're being way too tactical. They're overthinking it. You want them to get through a whole dungeon in a night, and they only get to 2 of the 5 encounters because they're really overthinking every scenario. Give them some extra weapons. They'll feel more confident going in, and they might just rush in and hack these guys apart like you want them to. They can have a really cool knock-on effect on the game. There's also other stuff as well, you can get supernatural gifts, like blessings and charms and stuff like that, and also boons. They say in the DMG boons are strictly for a 20th level, but honestly, I look at them, I don't think that's that big a deal. They don't feel like they are necessarily only 20th level things,
I think they rolled that back a bit as well in more recent releases with the likes of the dark gifts and the draconic boons, where you can just get them for doing things. Like your draconic boon you can just get for killing a dragon, and I think you just absorb, someone says sometimes, I think the exact wording is sometimes when an adventurer slays a dragon, part of that dragon's magical essence is absorbed into it. Basically when you kill a dragon in Skyrim.
Yeah, exactly. You absorb some of the soul, and you just you go with the absolutely. So I think what's it now? Some of those are really cool, but again, I don't feel like many of them are so overpowered you wouldn't
Yeah, no,
Let me pull one of them here.
they're always. I think most of them are always like useful. Is the way I put them.
Okay, I was just saying, I don't think any of them are too overpowered. The first one I looked at is the Boon of skill proficiency. You get proficiency in all skills.
Yeah, that one's pretty good, alright. Yeah.
That one's overdoing. That one's overdoing a little bit. Let me see here now. Oh, this one. Okay, so this one's pretty good. Boon of Irresistible Offense. You bypass all damage resistances on any creature. That's pretty good. But realistically, when you hit a certain like level, like when you get to like level 10 or 12, I don't think people have to worry too much about resistances too much after that, particularly because your bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing at that point are likely to be magical. So at least for those 3 core ones, you don't have to worry about them ever, you know?
I think that one gets better once you crest level 15.
What would that be?
Because then you start encountering creatures that nearly all have the 4 main elemental resistances, and most players will pick one.
Oh, like fiends and stuff like that.
Fiends, like big scary dragons, like the really big stuff. Like I think doesn't what resistances does an astral dreadnought have? Like, you know, it's
yeah.
I think that's one that you'll get more value out of in higher tier D&D when everything has crazy resistances.
There's one here actually I just found that really seems like it could more be. It's actually, I think this is weaker than some of the feats you can currently get. It's Boon of Dimensional Travel. As an action, not a bonus action, as an action, you can cast Misty Step without using spell components. Once you do so, you can't do so again until you finish a short or long rest.
As an action, you can cast a bonus action spell?
Yeah, and you only get it once per short rest. Like, I'm pretty sure there are current feats. No, maybe they're long rest.
You don't even need a feat, just pick an Eladrin.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
I did that for the campaign.
Yeah, so... And there's also one here when you miss with a melee attack, you can choose the hit instead, but you can only do it once. That's actually the Elven Accuracy feat. Yeah. So yeah, again, there's some of them here the differential between these, but I mean, like, I would have no problem giving that to a human at 5th level. You know, where if you miss, you can just choose to hit to succeed once. It's almost like a whatever the opposite of a legendary resistance is.
Legendary, no. Let's not workshop the name.
Yeah. I've actually given them to baddies before, like the legendary successes or whatever, where like if they roll a crit 1, I'm just go they succeed anyway, but I only give them like 3 of them. Okay. But yeah, so I think those I have too many screens open here. There we go. I think that there's a lot of really cool stuff you can give players, but then like how that encourages them can differ, and I'll talk a bit more on that in a second. A lot of these ones here, whether it's magic items, gold, supernatural gifts, or boons, are I think they are very core mechanical functions of the game. A lot of them will help you in combat or with specific powers or abilities, and there's also stuff you can do as well though that is it's more towards the roleplay side of things. If you actually look at the D&G, these are down under marks of prestige, under the other rewards section. Some of the examples they give are letters of recommendation. I think we're actually seeing that currently.
Critical Role, yeah, this season.
Actually, this happened. It happened in the current campaign and the start of last campaign itself. Because remember, Ford got the thing, and then they never pursued it. But then, and then currently, I think Imogen just got some sort of letter of recommendation as well. These are cool things. The cool thing about a letter of recommendation, right, is that what does this encourage you to do from a DM perspective? Well, if you give them a letter that says, "Hey, you're allowed to do this, or you're allowed to access this library or this temple or whatever," you're now encouraging them to go to that temple. You know, you're saying, "Hey, you're allowed to do this." Like, people are going to be like, "Cool, I do it then." You know, it pushes you in the direction of that. Medals are another one. Medals that show like renown, or maybe you did accomplish particular tasks. In our current campaign, 3 of the 4 of you, because unfortunately Gavin wasn't in the campaign at the time, 3 of the 4 of you are Knights of Redalia, or you're Knights of the Kingdom you're in, because you were knighted by the Baroness of a particular barony after doing some great deeds. And I don't think you guys have flaunted that too much, but on occasion you will pull out the medals and medallions, and you'll be like, "Actually, we're Knights of the Realm." So
I realize that's probably what we should have led with the Marquis and Basto, rather than we're fucking monster hunters from Temeroy, that city that we're now criminals in.
Maybe again, it's a weird one. I will get into that later about about just because you give someone the thing doesn't mean they always use the thing. That is what, like, you guys have definitely pulled out the medallions a couple of times. I think when you spoke to some people in Temurai, you did it, and on a handful of occasions, you'll be like, oh, actually, I think when you spoke to Kosh, the wizard,
Yes, we did.
I think you guys were like, oh, we're actually knights of the realm, and then he was like, yeah, so am I.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was less than plus.
Yeah. But yeah, that's another one. Parcels of land is a cool one.
Yep.
Being able to say, like, whether it's either like a small farmstead or whatever. I personally love when I'm able to call a little section of the world my home, you know?
My guys have two houses.
Sorry?
My guys have two houses.
Your guys have two houses?
Yeah, they've a house inside the. Well, one is a house and one is more like one is a house and one is more like just like a communal sleeping area. But yeah, they have a house in one city because they helped save that city from an invasion of zombies and lycanthropes. So they were given that as a reward by the city. And then there's another one where they sort of are like, yeah, look, if you ever need us on hand, in this other city, we're willing to help you out. And they did a few things to them, and then as a reward, they gave them like sleeping quarters inside the barracks. That's like sort of separate in their own like little quarters in the barracks area.
I think you guys have a couple, kind of. You have a sleeping quarters. Oh, you have a house in Rune, a very small house, that just about fits. It just about fit three of you. There's four of you now, so I don't know how someone's going to have the floor.
And the dog.
And a dog, so five of you.
Yeah.
And so you have that, and you also have a guild hall now in Temurai as well, which is currently kind of impounded or sorry,
had
a guild hall in Temurai.
Yeah.
That's another one. There's also this is one I kind of like, and I don't think I've done it in as direct a sense, but special favors, like if you help a king or a lord or something like that, they'll be like, oh, you have my, how would they phrase it in like a medieval term? You have my
favor.
My favor, yeah, I guess, yeah. And then you basically, it's like you can call in.
I'm pretty sure that's where the phrase "do me a favor" comes from.
Oh, okay.
I could be wrong. It just makes sense to me.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, that does make sense. This one I like a lot, right? Because it's open-ended. It's like giving someone a ton of gold, right? You give your players, you go, here's 10,000 gold. You don't know what they're going to do. They might get magic items, they might buy a place to live, they might buy a cart and try to make it sentient. Yes, Mike, I'm looking at you. They could do anything at all, but like that's kind of fun. And I particularly like this one because it's not gold. Gold can be very mechanical in how it works in D&D because gold can only be used for X number of things, you know? It can be used to buy magic items or property or health potions or accommodation or whatever. You can bribe people with it. There's some cool uses. Sorry?
Training.
Yeah, there's a lot of uses you can use for it.
We have an episode on that, in fact.
We do. Definitely watch. That's one of my favorite episodes. Definitely watch the episode on making gold more useful, guys. Watch or listen to. It's one of my favorite episodes because I feel like gold can often be overlooked as, I think people just accumulate it in 5e and don't necessarily use it. Gold can be so useful if you put your mind to it, and you can get lots of benefits back out of the game for it. Definitely go watch or listen to that episode. But I like the idea of having, like, saving the king from an assassination attempt. And then the king is like, oh, you have my favor. Anything you want, feel free to come to me and I'll do my best to assist you.
Yeah.
And then, like, the DM having no, like, inkling or no predetermined idea of what that will be, just go to the players and go, you have this thing. And then at some point, usually when you don't expect it, the players will turn around and be like, hey, the king said that time that he would do us a favor. We should totally call that in now. I love that. Because I don't know what you're going to do. I love when I don't know what you're going to do. I just give you the keys, and I'm like, at some point, you're going to check this in. You're going to hand me this chip, this poker chip, and you're going to cash this, and I can't wait to see what you decide to do with it. I did something similar a while back, because you guys went into the Underdark and found a very powerful magical ring, and I had the ability to cast Wish once. And I love this because I'm like, here's a wish, and I just walk away and I say nothing, and I don't know what you're gonna do with it. There's a few things you talked about early on, and then you left it alone for a while, and in the end, when you were in a really dire circumstance, surrounded by hordes and hordes of zombies, Wabu wished that all of the undead in the immediate area were gone. or were dusted basically, and he wished it, and it's a big flash of green light, and they all just turned to ash, like Thanos style. And I'm like, that was a good use because you guys were in pretty tight there, and pretty deep.
Yeah.
But I like anything like that where like the reward. This is a cool one again because it kind of differs from the others. When you give people rewards, sometimes you're giving them a reward to be like, here's a reward, and here's the kind of behavior that follows along with it. Again, if I give you a +3 sword, you're gonna want to start chopping stuff. So, but if I give you a wish, that's open ended. That could be literally anything. That's really really fun to me as a DM because again, as a DM, we often know what's coming next or what's going on. If you give your players like a one-time token that says I can break the game for like the next 5 minutes, then that's brilliant to me. You know, anytime you guys have ever kind of come to me and be like, hey, we know this person or we know this thing or this person's a friend, can I ask them for help or in this case, can I cast a wish to do this thing now? And I've forgotten you had that ring, you know? That's the kind of stuff I love. I love leaving it open-ended like that as well.
Yeah, it's always good to be surprised as a DM. Well, pleasantly surprised.
Well, yeah, exactly. There is definitely times when I've been less than pleasantly surprised. Another one I have here is special rights. So this one could be maybe after proving to the Lord Commander of the Elven House Guard that you are friends of their people, you are permitted to enter the conclave freely, or maybe even carry weapons or something like that. You know, maybe normally you need to kind of prove your allegiance or prove your friendship to your people or something like that. Maybe no one's allowed into the Sacred Grove, but after doing some missions for the Druids, they're like, okay, we'll grant you access to the Grove so you can, you know, do this thing or whatever.
Vox Machina get put on the Taldora Council because they killed Brimscythe.
Exactly. I don't hear strongholds. Strongholds one kind of falls under parcels of land.
Yeah.
But I do feel like there's a bit more. We could definitely talk about that, maybe in a different episode about strongholds and stuff like that.
Sure.
But they're like, there's a cool. Okay, I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to like bookkeeping and stuff like that.
Yes, you are.
I would totally be if I was on a team like on a D&D party and the DM's like, oh, you guys have a castle now. But it's a bit run down and you can do all this kind of stuff.
We did
I
have
would
a
totally
pub at one point. No, you weren't there for the pub. We got a pub shortly after you left our first campaign.
I think we didn't. I don't think we necessarily got it, but I think there was a farmhouse that one
Yes,
of the
that was it. Yeah, and we remade it into. Well, no, sorry, much better. The Dragon Keep in our first campaign.
Yeah, Dragon's Hold, I think it was called.
Dragon's Falls. That was it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, so that's the kind of thing I would see. I put that in because I like that, but I was also trying to encourage that behavior because that's the kind of behavior I enjoy. I put that in because like I would like if I play like I don't know Dragon Age Inquisition or something like that, and I can do up my fortress and add all these rooms that I've chosen or something like that. I love stuff like that. I absolutely love it. Or even in like Skyrim, but there's not a lot of like benefit to it. But if you look at the is it the Hearthfire expansion? It's the second expansion where you can build your houses anyway. You get to design the layout, and if you're a mage character, you can literally add like a wizard's tower to the back of it. Or if you're a knight, you can add a training room. We can do all this kind of stuff. I put Dragon's Hold in the first campaign because I wanted to encourage you guys to like invest in it and be like, oh, we should add a library, we should add an alchemy lab, and you added a few things. I don't know if that you necessarily bit down on that as hard as I wanted,
we had like a shrine and the stables, and we had like a.
Oh, I think you had a hangar bay for your shuttle.
Yeah, we had a shrine, the stables. We had the hangar bay for the shuttle that was the Red Dragon's old cave. What else did we? I think we had a poison making room for Drunin as well.
Yeah. Oh, do you know what you had? You had
we had an alchemist lab as well. I think for Sage to make potions.
Remember there was I forget her name. You met in the Underdark or when you got back from the Underdark, some Drow refugees.
Velna,
yes. There was Velna who was a Drow Spore Druid. I think Spore Druid had just come out at the time.
It has, yeah.
And she was like a really creepy, almost tough like witch from the Underdark. But she liked making poisons and all that kind of stuff. So she was like, I'm going to take a room in the castle. I hope you don't mind. And she just found a dark room in the basement and filled it with mushrooms and stuff all over the walls. And she would use them to make different poisons. And like, you guys were able just to go to her and she's like, do you have any poison? She's like, yeah, I got loads. Here you go.
Yeah, you'd really like Firelink Shrine in the Dark Souls games, Connor, because it's exactly that. It's like all your most relevant NPCs are all around you in a radius. You can go around, talk to them, get little mini missions, get little like mini relationships with them. There's a thief guy. You when you do he goes, yeah, oh, you're going out, can you find me this ring? And if you bring the ring back to him, he's like, oh, the person who this belonged to is dead. Okay. And then you do a couple more missions, come back, he's no longer sad, and he's like, I don't really have much to do now. I'm a really good thief. Do you want me to go out and start robbing stuff for you? Yeah, go man, go for it. And then he becomes another shop.
That's I'm trying to think.
His name is Grey Rat. He's great.
Grey Rat. That's really good. Yeah. So that is like Strongholds. I would like to come back to that. I think I'd also do a full episode on Strongholds.
I think we totally
could. There's also titles you can get, which you kind of talk about being like Knights of Redalia. Yeah. Being granted, I know like in one of Matt Colville's games, he had a fella find a shield, of a shield of Andrum it was called, and like wielding it gave you some claim over a certain region, and you could declare yourself the lord of that region because you wielded this old ancient shield.
Like Narsil.
I did. Yeah, exactly. Like Aragorn needed the. Did he need the sword? I think he kind of did, right?
He needed the sword to command the ghosts.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But he needed to be willing to accept the title of being the King of Gondor. It's
more symbolic than that. Yeah, he needed to reforge the sword, to reforge his claim, to reforge his line.
Yeah. Which, if I'm not mistaken, he isn't even the King of Gondor. His ancestors are the kings of
Numenor, who then went to Middle Earth and became the First Men.
Yeah, but Gondor is the southern kingdom, where the Shire and all those others are. That used to be another. Was that Anor or something like that?
Arnor, is that what you're thinking of?
Maybe, because I remember those are two kingdoms, and like Isildur was over that northern place up at the Shire and stuff like that, and Gondor was actually by a separate family, but or like a brother, and then their father was the High King of both.
Right.
So I remember someone explaining it recently in a video I was watching, and they were like, Aragorn actually doesn't have a huge. He probably has the most claim, but even then, not really, because he's not. His bloodline has nothing to do with Gondor. It's everything to do with the other kingdom. But like, if you go back a couple steps to like Isildur's dad was the boss of both, and Aragorn kind of in a roundabout way has a claim to Gondor. Then, certainly more than
Boromir,
Denethor, son of Ecthelion.
Yeah,
I could remember son of Ecthelion because I hear Gandalf say it in my head when he walks into the. Yeah. Hail Denethor, son of Ecthelion. But yeah, I lost track of what we're talking about there. Oh, titles. That's right. Yeah. But yeah, I think titles are cool. I think that was a really cool thing. The idea that that one player in the party might find an item that somehow grants them the title of that thing. Whoever wields this sword or this shield is that person. Yeah. I imagine Matt maybe took that from Lord of the Rings. I then stole it from Matt, and I used it in a one shot where I had some players recover some artifacts from a saint who was like the patron saint of this town. They were stolen from his tomb. They pursued them, took them back, and when they each picked up one of the artifacts, one of the various, he had like a cloak and a shield and a dagger and some armor, I think. And when they each picked up one of the items, they all kind of had a shared vision where this powerful fae was like, thank you for recovering these. These belong to the former champion of this city. It isn't, or it's Salaster is where they are.
Okay.
So that these belong to the former champion of Salaster. I'm really pleased to see myself looking upon 4 more champions of Salaster. So they became the champions of Salaster because they were chosen by this fae.
So what you're saying is the shield isn't up for grabs.
It is not. No. Currently, the longsword is missing because the Eladrin who took it from the tomb managed to make off with it. So they have to pursue that in another adventure. I have like multiple arcs going on in the same kingdom, in like little one shots and stuff. But yeah, that's it. And then I also have training here as well. By the way, this second group of things, you can see how they are way more based in role play, like how you would not necessarily do anything that is, what's the word? You might get some mechanical benefits out of it, but they're not strictly mechanical because you might have the favor of a king or something like that. going to the king then and meeting with him in his audience chamber, and then asking him to make good on his promise and please send 100 warriors with us to this place so we can retake this castle from this necromancer. Stuff like that is like, it's roleplay stuff that can benefit mechanically, but I think it's really cool that you can get this stuff. I wish it came up a bit more often. I think a lot of people want the crunch. They want that new sword. They want that new ability and stuff. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's very much the way the game is geared. But I just like the idea of like in game one of the characters being handed a scroll and being like, this is a scroll, like a seal of this house. You can call on us at any point and we'll like honor our agreement and we'll send warriors to help you in whatever battle you're in. Yeah. That's really cool to me. That's just really, really cool to me.
Yeah, no, it is dope. It's like, yeah, it's very like the beacons have been lit, like.
Oh yeah, that kind of stuff's really, I don't know, it's really cool to me that that's a different level of engagement. I think jumping into the world, fighting things, killing monsters is great, and I love it. But I think there's just a new level of engagement when you decide, when you see the world. It shows you have this suspension of disbelief because you're like, hey, we know that king, we have a letter from that king, we can give it to him and ask him for this. Like, nowhere on your character sheet does it say you can do that. There's no ability that says ask king for favor, So it's a new level of engagement that just shows a real belief in the world and a real investment in the world when you think on the level, what does my character, or what would my character do in the sense of that's outside of simply rolling to attack or using lay on hands or rolling for stealth or something like that, I really, really love it. An example here, I also have training down here as well as another one. The example I thought of is if you joined a pirate crew and took some downtime, they could then train you in water vehicles because everyone on board probably should have proficiency in water vehicles, which I really, really love the idea of. So then I want to talk about, so these are all the kind of things you can be rewarded with. They're all the ones I had ideas for. I feel like I'm rambling a lot as well, Martin. Feel free to jump in here at any point and just somebody shut up.
No, all good. It's all good.
So I want to talk about like what kind of behaviors certain things will encourage. We already talked about the different types of magic items nudging you in different ways.
Yeah.
The different supernatural boons and stuff like that. I think granting someone a powerful ability by a god or demigod it would kind of nudge you to maybe buy into that person's or that being's investment. Like that's how you could kind of unintentionally become like a semi-warlock or you could become like a holy. You might be a rogue, but you might end up being a rogue working for the church, and you believe in that god if you kind of do enough missions and stuff like that to buy in with it. I think, and you can look at the group patrons thing in Tasha's for it. It doesn't have to necessarily be a god. It could also be like a lord, or maybe a captain of the guard is your patron, and he hires you guys on as freelancers, on a regular basis. Totally. But I think, sorry, go on.
Oh no, it's totally, yeah.
Yeah, it's. I think you can kind of align your players with someone if you kind of do enough missions with them and stuff like that. I think people would gravitate towards, like, if you do 4 or 5 missions for this person, maybe they have an opposing faction. Maybe they're like a priest in this cult and they really want this cult gone, and you're doing all these missions for the priest. After 4 or 5 missions, you would see yourself, I think, as being allied with the priest and being enemies of this cult, and maybe you would probably get invested and be like, yeah, I think I want to get rid of this cult as well. It aligns you, and that can be good for DMs if you really want to encourage someone down a particular path.
Yeah.
At the end of it, I think letters of recommendation and medals can do the same thing. Would you say, given our current campaign, so you guys basically, it's weird because if you're in a kingdom called Verdalia, none of you are from this place. No. You're all from, one of you it's a human kingdom, one of you is an elf, one from like the northeast, one of you're from the north directly, you're a human, but you're from the north. We have a halfling who's from the northwest, and then we have a turtle who's from the way south. But 3 of you now are knights of the realm. Like, do you as a player, having been given that, feel any sort of obligation or feel like you have a service to the realm? And feel free to say no. Like, if you feel like that didn't, when I gave you that title and stuff, if you feel like that didn't nudge you in any particular direction, feel free to say so, because I would be interested to know either way.
I wouldn't say the title itself would have nudged me in any particular direction, but we just spent a lot of time in Rune, so we have a lot of time in Rune. There's characters I like that are in Rune, so naturally I am predisposed to the defense of Rune, particularly as I invested a bit of time in it as well. I have a faction there, so I like being Kailed, but being a Knight of Redalia, I am still incentivized to protect Redalia in general, like as we've done with like doing the resistance stuff. I'm still incentivized like to protect Redalia just because there's stuff I care about in Redalia, and if Redalia goes, the next country on the chapter, as I said literally in a conversation to an NPC like 4 or 5 weeks ago, I was like, well, if Redalia falls first, the next country is Kael'da, and that's not happening, so Redalia isn't falling.
Yeah, fair enough. So what you're saying is no, the medal had virtually no effect.
I was already predisposed to the defense of the country. The
Yeah,
medal was the
that's
cherry
fair.
on top.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Now,
I'm always curious.
There are 2 other players you could ask and see how they felt about it.
Yeah.
But like heroic fantasy is also my thing. I like heroic fantasy, so naturally I
Yes.
kind of want to do. I want to defend places and protect people.
Yeah, and I think 5e is very much already geared that direction. You know, you don't have to try very hard to make your players the heroes of any arc. They have way more powers than almost every person you will meet. They are basically superheroes by the time they hit 6th or 7th level. Like, you know, they can do things that no other person, any Joe Schmo walking around town can do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, gearing it towards heroic fantasy is definitely, and that's kind of something I think I wanted by giving you those medals. I wanted, like, one, to show you, oh, you helped this town, the people are appreciative of you, and they wanted to reward you. So that I wanted to build a relation in that sense. But also, like you said, you already had a predisposition towards helping them anyway because you felt like, you know, they're good people and you liked those characters and stuff like that. I think I wanted to do it like to solidify you guys as like being heroes or being people who are helpful to the people of Redalia. You want to help them, but again, you already have that. Maybe I'm talking to I should be asking one of the other 2 if they felt any change in that sense. But that's probably the reason I wanted to. I wanted like you guys to recognize that you're part of this place. You should want to, you know, have a positive impact on it.
Yeah, well, it worked. Like it was more so like rather than being the reason, it was part of the reason.
Yeah. Fair enough. I think
it's an extra level of connection to a place. Is what it was for me. In that I had already there was like NPCs and stuff I'd established there. We've the Grim Guard are there. Like I was already pretty up for like protecting Redalia. But like, being like a knight is like an extra tie to the land. So yeah. Yes, Conor.
Martin, let's talk about the Grim Guard.
Okay. Is this where I get called out? Because you.
This is where you get a little bit called out. No, okay. It's not bad, but you just get a little bit called out. Okay.
I had a feeling this is what it was going to be.
Okay, so
lay it on me.
One of the early arcs we did in this campaign was a kind of what would you call it? A line of succession kind of arc, an unclear line of succession in your home country of Kael'da, which is north of Redalia. You guys went and you kind of resolved that in what I think was probably the best way it could have been resolved. You know, you did a single combat, which is always really badass to do. You won by the skin of your teeth. You made a rapid escape. You didn't have to like have huge armies clashing. You resolved it like with minimal bloodshed and everything. So I think it was a really, really well resolved story arc. Yeah. Following that, because what you had to do as Lug is you had to kill this. I hesitate to say false queen because she technically didn't break any rules to get where she was. She just did some stuff that was a little less than honorable, but there's no strict rules that were broken.
Yeah.
And this caused a schism in the country. Some people said, "Oh well, she followed all the rules," and some people are like, "Yeah, but the way she did it was wrong."
Yeah.
And as a result, then, but when you had to basically. If we're looking at this in strictly legal terms, right?
I had to murder the queen. I had to commit regicide.
you had to commit regicide. You had to murder the queen because if we're looking at it in a strictly legal sense, she was the queen. But just how she got there was a little bit iffy, so on. As a result, you kind of knew going into that mission. You were told by some people, look, we want you to do this, but if you do this, we're gonna have to publicly at least. Call you a murderer of queens and exile you from our kingdom. lest someone who was a fan of her come and just kill you in the street, you know. Um,
Bring it on.
and but in doing that, some people thought what you did was right, and that you being exiled wasn't necessarily the correct thing to do, and they decided to leave with you. And then you ended up getting this following of about 50 or so Kale people from various clans. Um, they came to the border and they were waiting for you there, and they were like, "We want to go wherever you go. We think what you do. If you can do something like that, sacrifice your home, not your home itself, but your experience of the home. You can never return. You still leave everything you know behind, but you're willing to do it so that others can keep it. That's really selfless. We think that you are a good person. We want to follow you. We want to do the same thing and have the same level of impact. So they decided to follow you, and you named them. You named them the Grim Guard. This is when you donned your hound helm
My black
persona.
armor and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and you became like the Grim in Harry Potter, like Sirius Black.
Yeah.
The Grim, you became a Black Hound warrior. And yeah, and you people followed you, and you kind of organized a little bit. I guess my question is, Martin, why don't you ever use the Grim Guard?
Oh, okay. Why don't I use the Grim Guard? Well, I think at the moment I had them training to fight giants and reinforcing the town they're in, and now currently I have them sent off to fight giants.
This is true. I will say the second part happened because I had an NPC prompt you to send some people here. I'm just curious because here's the thing.
Okay,
We're
so
talking about behaviors.
Right. So if we're going to talk about behaviors, the entire vibe I've gotten from everything Kaled since that has been, we don't want you involved. It's not the time for you to get involved. You cannot get involved here. We want to. No, sorry. Everything, like every interaction I have had with someone from Kelda has been, we appreciate you want to help. You cannot help. Do not ask to help.
Which is fair. Again, the country, yeah, you're dead right. The country's in a very precarious state, like socially and like
I
politically.
really want to. I want to go and fuck up a load of giants.
But like, well, okay, that's fair. The country's in a very unstable state. So yes, the people that are there are like, even though they are having problems, they think injecting you into the situation will only exacerbate things. People will, because the people who are like happy that you're gone will suddenly be like, oh, he's back. Why is he helping? We don't want him here.
Because he can kill
so
all
even-
the fucking giants.
so he can save your asses, which is fair. But I'm curious, like, okay. So here's the thing I wanted to happen, and this is like I said a while ago. Sometimes you reward players with something, expecting them to kind of follow through with a behavior that's related to that. I could have gave you this small army of warriors, and I was kind of like, in my mind, I was hoping you would take that and kind of run with it, and like if there's ever missions or things you can't do, you would send these people off to do them. You would be like, okay, I'm going to do this other quest now. It's kind of time sensitive. I would like to go and get this other thing sorted out. I'm going to get 5 of these people, send a message to these people. I'll get 5 of them together and I'll send them off to do this thing or to gather information or scout ahead here. You know, there's behaviors like that I wanted to come from the situation. Now, maybe I didn't telegraph that well. Maybe I didn't set that up in such a way that you feel that is an option. And if so, that's fair enough. That's on me. But that's kind of the behavior I was hoping to follow through with. If I give you a hammer, you're going to go looking for a nail. So if I give you an army, you're going to want to mobilize the army, move them around, send them like people you can send out on missions. You know. So would you say like, because I mean, you in theory like those people could go and do stuff in Redalia or anywhere else, or even it doesn't like the Grimguard.
Looking for a dragon horde.
You could absolutely do it. You absolutely could. So the guys killed a dragon recently, but they killed it outside of its lair. They don't know where the horde is. It's somewhere in these really big, expansive mountains. And they were like, "Can we try and find it?" I'm like, "You can, but it's going to take time because it's a really big, expansive mountains."
We're all super happy about it.
Yeah, I do you know what? It's actually a thing that like I can tell like most people in the group are not thrilled about the fact that the horde is like still out there somewhere and not claimed yet. But look. And maybe again, I do this sometimes where I get a bit bogged down in like the reality of things.
We didn't get paid. That would probably be why all of us are particularly upset about that.
Yes. Okay, look, here's the thing. There's knock-on effects to everything happening here, Martin, okay? All right, I am just a caretaker of the world,
Yeah.
but I do not control which way it flows. Um, like there were reasons that like you guys didn't get, like I was fully ready to pay you, but then you guys mentioned specifically the town you just come from, where you were basically by some you would be called terrorists there, and you were like, oh, we're from this place, we're named this. Here's all our real names, and where we used to work, this organization we have, and then you arrived here, and he's like, oh, I haven't heard of these people or anything before. I guess I'll just do a bit of a background check.
Yeah.
And then he called up Temurai, and they were like, hey, I got these guys, I just hired them, are they any good? And you know the way you're not really meant to give a bad reference?
Yeah.
They gave a bad reference. And they were like, oh my god,
No,
you hired a bunch of terrorists, get them out of there.
I understand it. I understand it. Believe me, I understand. I understand the reasons why.
Yeah, so that's where my mind goes. Again, I think occasionally I tend to get bogged down in the reality of it. I overthink it, and I think, well, this would happen as a direct occurrence of this, but maybe I don't always have to do that. But I get a little bit too wrapped up in my own in my own world, and yeah, yeah. Look, here's the thing. Here's the thing. I said this to you already. The horde is there. It's waiting for you. Okay, it's waiting. It's there. I will promise you now. I'm not doing a switcheroo when you arrive and there's one gold piece and a trail of gold pieces leading hundreds of miles away and someone else took it. It's there. It's there. It's waiting for you. It's just you will need some downtime to feasibly survey the mountains and find where the cave is.
Okay.
This has been a topic of much salt in the party for at least 2 or 3 weeks now.
Yeah, it has been. Unabashedly, it's been absolutely. It's been our main gripe.
It has.
It's like that and my gauntlets. That's all that's come up over the last 3 weeks.
That has just been an unfortunately long time. Like, I've just been waiting for at some point you to turn around and go, "Hey guys, let's go get this thing I need for my gauntlets now," and then I'd be like, "Cool, let's go," and then. But no one's ever like it's just never come up. Like everyone's been like, how about we do these other 5 things first?
I have been looking for news about storms for months. It wasn't until we did the Empire stuff that I could ask Valdrine, and he was like, oh, there's a storm here where the Navy is.
Yeah, true. I did have some other things planned. I guess, yeah. I won't get into it.
Yeah. You can tell
I'm
a loot motivated player as well as a lore motivated player.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing. Yeah, you're actually that'd be a very interesting thing actually to categorize. Because actually, one thing I don't think we've talked about. Have we talked about like types of players?
I think we have, yeah.
Oh, have we? Okay, never mind.
Maybe in terms of party composition, but not like I don't think we've actually done like.
We did. We talked about like types of players in terms of. We talked about types of characters. Like, are you the healer in the party? Are you the sneaky type? Are you the upfront fighter?
Your role in the party, I think, is what we.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, check out that episode as well. But watch the gold one first. I'm so proud of the gold one. It's just I love a lot of the content in that. Yeah. But yeah, no. I think we could probably do an episode on the types of players that go along with it and like what motivates those players as well. What do they want to get out of it? You definitely have a bit of a loot goblin mentality to your playing.
I'm unabashedly a goddamn loot goblin.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way you get cool stuff in D&D.
True. Yeah, gotta go for that loot.
Gold is imaginary.
When you think about it, Martin, all money is imaginary. It's just bits of metal and paper.
Yeah.
The economy doesn't actually exist. It's all a facade we just agree to.
Okay. So golds, yeah.
Yes. So yeah, I think. You ever notice when I'm trying to like restart the conversation, I go, so I think, and then I just go from there. It's like my kick back into gear thing. I mean, that's honestly most of what I have on goals and stuff. I think. Oh no, she's right. There is one more thing I wanted to talk about, and I think. Okay, so in campaign 1, our campaign 1, when we first started playing, we did XP because XP is kind of the standard. It's the norm when you're playing D&D.
Yes.
And you earn XP for what in game, Martin?
It's killing monsters.
Killing monsters. There is only, as far as I'm aware, and I'm 8% sure of this. There's only hard rules for getting XP for killing monsters. There's no hard rules for roleplay. There's no goal oriented. It's not like every time you finish a quest or an arc you get 1,000 XP. There's nothing like that.
Nope.
So when you look at 5e from a game design perspective, the game very much encourages you to fight things, to go out and look for monsters. I was thinking about this earlier on. I was thinking like, so if that's the game, if the game rewards you for killing monsters, then the game, because we talked about this a while ago, what Matt said, the behavior a game rewards is the behavior the game encourages. By that kind of mentality, 5e really only wants you to just take missions where you have to hunt or kill monsters, where you kill goblins in the forest, or you kill a griffin on the mountaintop, or you kill the giant in the storm giant in the bay. It only wants you to do that because that's what it's rewarding you for. You only get XP off of that.
Yeah, I think that's why most people run Milestone, because then you can actually tie it to story advancement and like important moments.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking a while ago as well. It's like, if you tie advancement and progression, if you're rewarded with a level, not because you killed 8 goblins and now you have enough XP, but if you're rewarded with a level because you found out who was poisoning the sacred well in the temple, and you stopped that person, you killed the cultist who was doing it, and now you get a level, that to me is way more engaging. There's plenty of people that disagree. I know there's people that swear by Milestone. I am one of them. I also know there's people who swear by XP as well and wouldn't have it any other way. And that's fair enough. I get it both ways. I remember when I first tried to, we were like you guys were like level 7 or something like that in campaign 1 when I decided to change, 7 or 8, and I decided to change over. Now the reasons I did at the time were kind of different. I wanted you guys to, I think you were close to leveling, and you knew that you needed whatever many 1,000 XP, and you were like 200 off each or something like that. And you tried to get into the city and you failed, and when you left you're like, oh, what if we all tried to level up? Let's go grind on some mobs, basically. We go find something to fight in the forest, and then when we do that we can come back and we'll all be 9th level. And I didn't like that, because that to me was not. And look, I mean, there's people who can disagree with me. That's fair enough. I didn't like it because to me that was not a conducive role play experience, because you're not thinking of it in terms of role play. You're not playing a role now. You're playing a player. You're being a player. You're thinking, I want to level up to get more powerful. I'm going to use XP to do that, which is a construct of the game. You know, I know that if I grind on monsters, I will get XP and level up. That's why I wanted to change it, because I didn't want you guys to think monsters and hunting monsters was the main focus of the game, even though, again, by vanilla rules, it very much is.
It's about saying was specifically a demon hunter.
Yeah. Hey, look, you killed plenty of demons. I never deprived you of demons.
No, you did
never
not.
deprived you of demons. But I think that was, that was why I changed it, because I wanted to have it be goal oriented, and I feel like Milestone in that sense.
Yep.
That I think Milestone drives the game forward so much more than XP. Yeah. Because like if you think about it, if you do an X,
no, please, go on. No, go on.
No, I've been talking a lot. You talk.
I was going to say, out of curiosity, have you ever had a gawk at my goals on my notes on D&D Beyond?
No, I think I've glanced very briefly. I think you have like a list of bad guys.
Yeah, I've got, because there's in the extra sections, I've got 9 goals and 1 aspiration, because I don't think it's possible.
Okay. I like the distinction. Yeah. Is there another one for dreams? Just
no. It's just one of them is also listed as a goal, but I just don't think it's gonna happen.
Okay. Hold up now.
Yeah.
This is on the description. No, notes and then
notes and then down to other.
Let's have a look. Okay, I have not had a look at this. I think I've gone into the all section, and I've seen you listed organizations, which I like, but you're so organized, Martin. I fucking love this. This is great. Like I look, there's characters here that have not come up in months, and they're here and they're spelled correctly. God damn it, they're spelled correctly. That's so good. This has honestly caught me for a loop.
This is now reversed on the call out to me, and I've entirely turned the situation around.
I'm like, Matt, why aren't you doing the things I want you to do? And you're like, Connor, why haven't you given me the opportunity to do things I want to do? Yeah. Okay. So sorry, we'll go to your section on gold.
Yeah.
Am I okay to read these out loud?
Yeah, some of 1, 2, 3, 4. Skip the fifth one.
The one that begins with S.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first one is restore Owen's memory. So Owen is the elven spirit that inhabits Lug's body. That's cool. I like that. That's very cool. Learn about the other spirits inside you. Okay, I like that one as well. Kind of probably tapers in those two together.
That one was a bit of an older one as well. Where like, it's grand. Yeah, not so much relevant now, but still, it's there.
Kill Balor, Brez, and Omna. Obviously, no one who's not in our campaign won't know. Those are the three of the core members of the Fomorians, who are these. They're not quite Fomorians in the sense of the stat block for the monster. They are Fomorians in the sense of they are taken from like Celtic mythology. They are like enemies of the, in the same way that they are like the Fomorians in Celtic mythology are enemies of the people of Ireland. These are like enemies of the people of Caelda, and they're giants of various persuasions, whether you're like a Cyclops or whatever else, Etten and stuff like that. And they basically want the destruction of Caelda, as well as other small folk as well, but primarily Caelda. Killed Strauss and Cesarak. Strauss is one of the kind of bigger bads in the game, who was like a necromancer, and then Cesarak is Mike's character who went evil and then got cloned, but I kept the evil version and now I use him as a really hefty stat block against the party.
I love that sentence.
He went to it's so like anime, isn't it? Like he got cloned and then his evil twin followed this side, and then it's really good. It's honestly, it's one of my favorite things about this, and it was never planned. Mike just made some weird stuff happen, and then as a result, I'm like, again, I'm only the caretaker. I interpret the weave, if you will. But it just so happened that when these things lined up, it made perfect sense that this would work this way. Next up is learn more battle master moves. I like that. That's a good downtime one, I think. That's which is good. I think maybe we should start doing this. Okay. This was not in my notes, but I'm thinking like this could be like a really good a good lesson that we are learning, or I'm learning in this moment. But we can maybe like incorporate into the game. I could maybe ask you guys to do like, will you do some like short-term, mid-term, long-term goals? Things you want to like. Short-term could be like stuff you want to accomplish on your next downtime. Long-term could be like overall arcs, like you want to kill Balor and stuff like that. That'll be a long-term kind of thing. But like, I think that could be kind of cool. Because then, and maybe like we could do it the same way. You can have it on your character sheet here in the same way that the lads could do the same thing, and then I could just check in every now and again and see what you're looking to do, and I could kind of shape it based on that. That'd be kind of cool. So learn more battle master moves. Find/craft something like the Blood Fury tattoo. That's not the Blood Fury one's a legendary one, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's the barrier tattoo that I'm looking for at the moment.
Yes. Find King Eric's grave and the Wolf Clan greatsword. 1 second, no, I can't get this box. And the amulet of the drunkard. So yeah, there's an ancient king who's actually we found out a long lost ancestor of Lug's, of Lug's family line. He's not royalty anymore because Lug's, the son of Eric, renounced his claim.
I really need to fix that timer. Carry on, please.
Is it at 8 o'clock every day?
Yeah.
That's good. That's cool. But yeah, so Lug's like great. I think it's like 5 greats or something like that. Grandfather.
It's like 5 or 6 generations worth. Yeah.
Yeah. He renounced his claim to the throne. He didn't. He and his family. He's like, I'm done with you for reasons. And he left. And he changed his name. And Lug turns out to be the heir of that guy. So he doesn't have any true claim, but he does have like a king's or royal background or a chieftain's background.
Yeah.
And Eric would be the last king of that bloodline who had a really cool Wolf Clan greatsword and also an amulet of the drunkard, because I just thought it'd be fun. Next we have remake/find ancient Caeled armor.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, sorry, that's cool. I like that. I like that. It's the very last one, the aspiration
Yes.
one. Uh, so the very last one, all it says is 30 strength. So, Martin, I mean, look, I don't see anything
I
wrong with
want to
that.
arm wrestle like goddamn Tarask.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
I like how I knew. I like how I read that and I'm like, that's the aspiration.
Yeah, that one was just written to make myself laugh, really. But yeah,
I mean, even Storm Giants only have 29 strength, like.
27. Oh yeah, 29. Sorry, 27 is a different one. Cloud, I think.
That
But yeah,
I think, yeah.
no, that's kind of how I keep in mind what I want to get done. I just have it listed there, and then anytime I'm like, what do I want to get done again? And I'll like that's been periodically like edited and updated as well. I actually literally only updated it today because I figured it would be something we may talk about.
No, absolutely. Honestly, I'm really impressed. I think this has like there's some genuine, just really good organization here. If I look at that, I mean, again, we can talk about the other stuff as well. You have like organizations listed here, and you have multiple different people, and like, yeah, if you're in them, you have your title next to it, which is quite cool. You have a bunch of different allies and stuff like that.
Stop showing them how much of a nerd I am, Connor. I'm
Martin, you solidified that at the start of the podcast when you were like, "Oh, my teacher said I was good." I read this book when I was only 14.
I read is being generous.
I sounded out each word in this book from start to finish when I was 14. Read is putting it too strongly.
Anyway.
Yeah. I also like how you have enemies down as well, actually. Yeah, do you know what? This was on an unexpected one, but I think I'm just gonna put this down as like a lesson to walk away with. I think I might do this. Like,
Sorry, Connor.
maybe
I didn't mean to do this.
no, I like this. I like this. Honestly, here's the thing. Here, look. Like we always say, Martin. It's nice to be the DM and stuff like that, and to know what you're doing and be in control of it. It's also really nice to be surprised sometimes by what your players do, and this has surprised me. So thank you very much.
No problem.
I don't know about before next session, but I might get the lads to do something similar to this and just be like, here, give me like, doesn't matter how many of each, but just give me like some short-term goals, like stuff you want to get done in your next downtime, some mid-term stuff, things you can maybe accomplish in the next level or two, and some long-term stuff that's like stuff I want to have accomplished before the end of the campaign. Because I think that again would really help me. If I know what your goals are, then of course I can lay out roadwork for that. Yeah, absolutely. This I feel like is that a cheat sheet? Is that like instead of trying to gradually steal?
There's a great web DM video where Jim Davis is like, at the start of a campaign, I'm like, what kind of adventure do you like? What do you want? What kind of things would you like to do in this story? And just to get an idea of what people expect from a campaign. And he and like not necessarily lets it guide the campaign, but he now knows what elements certain people will really enjoy and can plan that accordingly.
Yeah. I don't think we've done a video on session 0, have we?
I do not believe so.
I don't think that could be a good one to do.
Yeah.
We could talk about planning campaigns and setting up expectations for players.
No,
but I mean, like,
seat in my pants, folks. Let's go.
The idea of having this goals sheet almost seems like a bit of a cheat sheet, because instead of me like trying to reward players in certain ways to steer their expectations, like you're just kind of like giving them.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
You're just asking for the information instead of being like. That's the equivalent of what me and my fiance do. Instead of being like trying to think about what the other person would want for Christmas, we just link each other our Amazon lists.
That way, no one's disappointed.
No one's disappointed. It's like, these are things I need or / want. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a cool here though. I think this. I almost do it. I'm gonna. If this was a drinking game, everyone would be on the floor by now.
Oh god.
I'm not going to say that thing. Thank you. I believe that you can. It's important to, and it's something I feel has gone over my head. I feel like before I watched that video from Matt a couple weeks ago, it was something I never really considered, but it makes 100% sense that things that I reward players with, that we as DMs reward players with, on some level encourage behavior.
Yeah, like the Moonslayer has a very like the abilities it has are very geared to more of a general figure than like a warrior that charges in and just goes ape shit. Like it's more like I'm gonna move my forces around and place them in places and make sure that they're okay.
Yeah, exactly. For context, there's no Martin has a really cool Fey spear, because he's a spear wielder. But I gave him this cool Fey spear, and when it upgraded, it got this additional ability where you can heal some nearby allies, and then they can all take a reaction to either move is half their speed towards you, or
move half speed, with no opportunity attacks towards me, or use their reaction to make a melee weapon attack if they have a reaction.
Yeah, which I think again because and this was a behavior this actually behavior I saw in Lug, but I don't think it took a while for you to kind of recognize it. I think.
No, I wanted to drag Songjaw for the first half of this campaign.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I think you wanted to be the bruiser, the big heavy, that goes in. But I always saw Lug as being the more of this like. Particularly because I feel like you just made him so much of a figure, like an icon, like you, like no, really. I mean, like you put a lot of work into giving him like his tattoo designs and him specifically having one eye, and then after the whole arc with the Queen and stuff like that, you gave him this black hound armor and almost adopted that persona, almost Batman style. He just became this hound warrior.
Yeah, that was shamelessly stolen from Berserk. To be fair, I just really like the Berserker armor.
But like, I think no, damn it, I said it again.
We'll get you like a list of synonyms for I think and stick them beside the monitor.
Yes, it is my opinion.
Yes, in my opinion.
That in my view, Lug very much became this symbol to rally around. That's why I gave you the Grimguard. That's why I gave you those people. I feel like people
back, sir.
I feel like people in your country would have responded to someone who is willing to be very selfless and do what they believe is necessary for a cause. And that, like, when I posed that to you as Lug, and you didn't blink, by the way. Like, I had a character explain to you, like, okay, we want you to kill the Queen, but you have to understand that if you do this, you will be a criminal of your home country. You can't come back here. We would have to be like, yeah, that guy's the worst. He just killed the Queen. But like secretly, they are thankful for you. And like when I remember thinking like that you might maybe mull that over or whatever, or like you'd kind of take a minute just to think about it. You were like, yeah, I don't care. Let's do it. Like because you wanted to take her out of power for the good of your people. You were trying to prevent a war from happening. And as soon as that happened, I'm like. That was such a pivotal moment for me and your character, that I just couldn't see people not rallying to this guy who's willing to do what it takes for good, to protect his homeland, even if it means he can't reap the benefits. He will still do what it takes to protect his home and his people. Yeah. And then I think from then on, we took a downtime after that, and during that downtime, it was just solidified in my mind that Lug is this leader of people. He is this general. He's not necessarily. He's the vanguard. He's in the front line, but he's also a general. He's the tip of the spear. He's the guy leading the charge, and he will. And he has a good moral compass that he will do it in such a way that he'll. What's what I'm looking for? Yeah, I don't know. You get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, he'll take the right path even at the expense of himself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think you didn't maybe intend for Lug to be that morally good as a character this campaign. I think you were maybe aiming for a bit more neutral.
I was aiming for neutral, and then I just got into this party, and suddenly I'm the nicest, most honourable person in this goddamn group.
Yeah, you were like, because you played a paladin.
I did. I was the moral center last game, but I didn't want to be the moral center this game. And because everyone else was so evil, I became the moral center again. It's
like you the last campaign were good. Most of the people were like neutral, but then everyone made a shift one down.
Yeah.
And then like everyone would like to like evil or like was like extremely between like neutral and evil. Well. Wabu just went straight up evil.
Yeah.
He mistook this for an evil campaign, which I don't know if that's on me or him or a combination of both, but we'll make sure that won't happen again.
Yeah. That's still one of the funniest things in the world to me.
Yeah. I just like I think we were on a video call at the time or something like that, and so that'll show you how far into the campaign we were. And then Mike just turns around and goes, "Wait, are we not meant to be like an evil party?" And I was like, "Where did you get this?" And then he's like, "You said something about this when we were planning the campaign. You said like, you wanted it to be more morally ambiguous." And I'm like, "I said morally ambiguous. That does not mean evil, sir."
Oh man, yeah, the good old days.
Yeah. Oh god. Next, I'm just gonna be explicitly like, "You're all lawful good next campaign. Deal with it."
Cool.
Hey, Batman's lawful good.
He is, yeah. That was my point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lawful good doesn't mean lawful nice.
Oh yeah. Batman does some like, and Batman very clearly breaks the law to do it. And again, this is all pulled from another Matt Colville video. If you can't tell, and I've mentioned this before, I'm a big fan of Matt Colville.
Yeah, he is.
But definitely watch his video on this. By the way,
This video is excellent. It's really, really.
It's really top notch, and it really kind of, it just spells out like a kind of again, it's almost like a hidden language in how the DM plays as well as how the players play and how you reward people and stuff like that.
It's the subtext of what goes on in the game.
Exactly. Subtext is actually the perfect way to put it.
Yeah, there's one or two comments because Macoville is a good community. So normally I would avoid YouTube comments like the plague, but Macoville I assumed would have quite a nice.
Except our comments, Martin. We read all of our comments.
I do actually read all of our comments. But
it's easy when there's only 3 of them.
Yeah, I appreciate the hell out of all of them though.
I do the same, absolutely.
But yeah, there was 2 comments that were kind of halfway down, and one was in reply to the first, and I think they're both really, really good examples and good ways to put this. And the first one is: the relationship between the mule, the carrot, and the stick is more complex than we may be led to believe. Don't forget to actually feed them some carrots sometimes, and be attentive if they prefer apples instead.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Then a reply to that one, which I really liked, was indeed, and as I was taught when training dogs, the recipient decides if something is rewarding. That means that some dogs like food to an excessive degree and will do anything for it, while others don't care. Some will do anything to play catch. The same applies to our players. Some will find it rewarding to hear the story of an NPC they rescued. Others will find it rewarding to get a new magic item. Others will find it rewarding to see they can push the story in a certain way.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
there were 2 really good comments. They just stood out to me.
I really like the reworking of the metaphor with the horse, the
carrot, the stick, and the mule.
Yeah, because it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, you're kind of dangling the thing the person wants in front of them, so that you can drive the. Sorry, I'm missing the point of a metaphor, and that you don't necessarily have to explain it out.
Yes.
Conor doesn't understand what metaphors are. It's so you don't have to explain it in 2 paragraphs of dialogue. Yeah, no, I like that. I like that an awful lot, and it makes perfect sense. Especially the part about like making sure you do feed them. Mm-hmm. There's no point in dangling this thing the whole time in front of players if you're not actually going to reward them at a certain point.
Yeah.
And the point about apples, about making sure the reward is what they seek from the game as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, very cool. The second one about. Read that to me again, one more time.
Indeed, and as I was taught when training dogs, the recipient decides if something is rewarding. That means that some dogs like food to an excessive degree and will do anything for it, while others don't care. Some will do anything to play catch. The same applies to our players. Some will find it rewarding to hear the story of an NPC they rescued. Others will find it rewarding to get a new magic item. Others will find it rewarding to see that they can push the story in a certain way.
Yeah, it's a fair point in like almost. I don't want to say contradiction, but almost like just kind of gently countering what we've talked about so far in the video. Whereas like you can influence how your players play, and not in a manipulative way, but in a way that you can kind of nudge them in towards certain things if you reward them with certain things. If I go, here's a spear, you're going to be like, cool, I'm going to stab them with the spear. But in this sense, they're saying like the player can also dictate what is rewarding, so that if your players are very magic item oriented, like very, very magic item oriented, you also can't force them to accept a 10-minute lore dump as their reward for completing a quest.
Yeah.
I think it's a good point to make. I said it again. Fuck.
It's going to be a thing now.
I said feel already. What is there?
In my opinion.
In my opinion, thank you. In my opinion, that is a good point to make because, it, you know what? It kind of goes back to the whole thing. And again, maybe we'll do a session 0 discussion soon
Setting
about
expectations.
about setting expectations and stuff like that, about what people want out of the game and making sure that you're catering to their needs,
Yeah.
And to their desires. There's no point in, like I said, having players who are like, let's get gold and magic items and let's go, kill the monster, and then you'd be like, here's a really long RP heavy set or campaign about like political intrigue and stuff like that, and the reward is that you get like titles,
Yeah.
and you could advance up the aristocracy, but like I don't want that. I want a +3 Avenger, Holy Avenger Greatsword, please.
Yeah, it's finding the right words for the right people at the right time, cause and also the right scale, cause like if you build something up really really big, and then the reward is a book, and it's just an ordinary book, and it's not even a particularly good book. Some people will really enjoy that. Other people will be like, "This is bullshit." Like,
it becomes tricky when you have a party of like 3 or 4 or 5 people, and they all have different wants out of this.
yeah,
I don't think you could, especially when you have the more people you have in your party. I don't think you can necessarily hit the nail on the head every single time. But I think as long as you're kind of peppering in a little bit for everybody, I think most people will be happy that they are getting out of the game what they want. There's definitely an element of catering to people's desires.
it's that old adage of like, you can please some of the people all of the time, but if you try to please all of the people all of the time, you're not going to please anybody.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Like you said, occasionally the carrot has to be on the stick. They're out there waiting for you, and maybe this other mule gets the carrot now, but you will get the carrot later.
Yeah, it's the thing that everyone says about what being a DM is like. It's keeping plates spinning.
Very much so. Yeah. But Martin,
Yes, Connor.
that's all the time we have today.
I think this is a really really good and important episode. I really like this episode.
I think it was important, but I think I did most of the talking, and I feel like that was maybe to the detriment of it.
No, honestly, like I was more than happy to sit back and take a little. So I feel like I did a good amount of talking. This feels very much like
more than happy to sit there and take a week off. Is that it? Oh yeah.
Oh, excuse me. A week off. Yeah. All right. I had to press the button to record, Connor.
And in a minute, I'm going to have to press it to stop recording. I bust my ass around here.
Do you know how much I have to move that? Like, oh my god, man. Repetitive strain injuries. Like.
It's funny because we both work from at-home jobs where we sit at desks.
Yeah. I don't move a whole lot different from when I'm podcasting and when I'm working. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, there's a lot. I'm a bit more animated with my hands.
Yeah.
That's actually not even true. I'm not even on a camera when I'm on calls in work, and I'll still be like, I'm still explaining to someone, and I'm doing this, and occasionally I'll catch myself, and I'll be like, why am I moving my hands? They can't see me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Pardon me. Yeah, I think this was a good episode, though. I think the subject matter of the episode is really important, even though I feel like I rambled for quite a lot of it.
No,
if you have any questions.
Sorry, Connor.
Say again? What you say?
I think we covered good stuff and important stuff, and I chimed in when it was useful and brought up useful things. So
good. As any team does, we back each other up. If you have any questions you'd like us to ask, stories you'd like us to share, or topics you would like us to cover, please tweet us at MicFlayers on Twitter. You can see it on the lower screen. You can find our podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor Breaker, and Radio Republic. Martin, where can people find you on the internet?
You can mostly find me on the internet on Twitter at So Sorry It's Over, which is in the lower half of my screen. Also on the Micflayers podcast Twitter, which is Micflayers Pod, just like Connor said a second ago, also in the lower half of the screen. Those be the main two parts. Not really doing Twitch anymore at the moment until I have a slightly better internet connection. Just punched my mic though. Connor, where can people find you?
People can mostly find me on Twitter at 0.Connor, ZeroPointConor, 1 N, very important.
I was so out of sync there, oh my god.
You were a lot earlier than me, I think, yeah? But most people can find me here on the Micflayers podcast every Friday at 6 p.m. Irish time. Guys, thank you so much for listening. I hope you got something good to take away from this episode. Definitely watch the Matt Colville video that inspired this episode. And we will see you all next time. Thank you very much. See you next week.
Later, folks.